Today, we are honored to host 3 experts on this topic. First, we have Silvio Vasquez, Chief Enrollment Management Officer at Wheaton College, joined by Kirk Brennan, Director of Undergraduate Admissions at University of Southern California, and Maria Gaston, Associate Director of Admissions, University of Pennsylvania. On behalf of the Navigate 2020 event sponsor, GoToCollegeFairs, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our panelists, and thank you so much again for taking the time to present on this important topic. Let's begin.
Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in this country. My name is Silvio Vasquez. It is an honor to be here this evening. Thank you, Scott, for your kind introduction. I don't know how much of experts we are in this current environment, but the knowledge we do have, we hope to be able to impart as it relates to our high school students in attendance tonight and any transfer students who may be joining as well. I'm honored to be joined alongside friends and colleagues, Maria and Kirk from USC and UPenn. I'm at Wheaton in Wheaton, Illinois. Our aim today is to help give you a vision for beyond the current reality we're in. There's an expression that says, without a vision, people will perish. And I think we need to focus on not only the immediate needs that we face in this pandemic, but also the realization that we will get through this. We will get through this together, and you are not alone. During this global crisis, so much is being called into question about how we live our lives and where we place our values. Industries are being turned upside down, and technology is being deployed to bring us closer. However, one thing is clear. Preparing for an unknown future requires the ability to think critically and communicate effectively while living and learning in community, something we are coming to appreciate even more in these days of shelter in place. So the aim of our presentation today is to help us think about how a college education in community will prepare you not only for a time like this, but for an unknown future. So let's get started. How will community shape your college experience? While learning online has become the norm, students are recognizing the importance of learning in community. What does that mean for your college experience in the future? I'd like to ask my colleagues, perhaps if they could share some examples of what a campus does to create community and welcoming environments for students from diverse backgrounds, to give students an understanding of what emphasis that has on college campuses and the impact it has for students.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think one of the things that is constant and has not changed is how much our institutions really believe in diversity, and that there are many different types of diversity. So diversity of thought, diversity of experience, the different things that you're interested in, not just the story that has already played out in your life so far. And as we think about bringing students together who have different strengths, who have seen and experienced different things, we really believe that they will interact with each other. So they're not just coming to our institutions to learn a subject, but they have something to impart to us as well. And that's when that community and the diversity of our community really can come to life and really reach that potential.
I'm struck that the word college comes from an ancient Greek word, I think, meaning to collect or to gather together. That's really the essence of what we're doing. We're bringing people together and discussing the great questions. We know that we learn from each other as much as we learn from our teachers, and as we progress through higher education, that gap narrows. And so we're counting on you students to contribute to that learning process, as well as trust that others will teach you along the same way. This is why we have residential colleges. This is why we have academic homes. This is why we build student organizations as support structures for communities to help collect students of like thinking, and then also to encourage you to stretch out of those boundaries and start to see how others are thinking, to test what you brought so that when you leave, you have a greater understanding of truth.
One of the interesting things that I'm learning from this experience is the degree of intentionality that is exponentially required to connect with people. The old adage that technology facilitates more connection, I think is true, but it cannot replace the human-to-human contact and the learning that takes place when we're shoulder to shoulder or grappling with issues, debating in classroom, in our residence halls. While there are over 4,000 colleges and universities in this country, you are seeing three primarily residential campuses who really believe in the value of community for learning. And learning isn't just about gaining knowledge, it's about developing skill sets and empathy to be able to relate with others. So let's talk about how colleges invest in students to help them not just learn, but to become the people that they strive to become as adults venturing forth from college. So why don't we talk a bit about the intellectual, social, emotional, physical, and career preparation elements that colleges really focus on for their students. Because right now in this environment, we're not only just thinking about how do we teach and provide content online, which is valuable, but our faculty and our campuses are even online are investing in our students socially, emotionally, physically. We care for the well-being of our students, even in the midst of this environment. So perhaps you could share some examples, Maria or Kirk, about the ways your campuses invest in your students.
Yeah, I think that an interesting correlation between these topics when it comes to the campuses investing in students also kind of points back to that community aspect, right? Like these are some of the categories that also could apply to a type of community that you join. And I think it's important to highlight that community is not all sunshine and rainbows. And so that getting out of your comfort zone aspect and learning in an environment where you know that you'll be supported was a huge part of my own college experience. So thinking about the opportunities you have to explore your own development and your identity and discover the things that you really have to contribute to the world, that social and emotional growth that I experienced whenever I was in college is something that I don't know that I would have gotten in a different situation or if I had solely been focused on going to class. And so many of our institutions are really thinking about building us intentional spaces for you to come and to be able to get this kind of growth, to a shoulder to cry on, someone that you can really explore and to grow with. And maybe you're sweating it out, maybe you're crying it out, maybe you just need someone to help you because you're not feeling so great in a variety of ways. But those people are hand in hand working with their faculty to help grow you and think about the ways you'll deal with whatever the world has in store for you in college and beyond.
I'm reminded of the concept we learned in high school psychology, the pyramid of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we first focus on the fundamental needs: food, clothing, shelter, and safety. And once these are in place, we can advance to more to higher level needs, to more important needs like social needs, like emotional needs, and a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose to achieve fulfillment in our lives. And we can't move to the next level without establishing a base. And so we spent a lot of time investing in this, moving north of that on that pyramid of needs. I worry that this pandemic is causing us to retreat towards the fundamentals. We're spending a lot of time worrying about food and toilet paper and less about health and happiness. Health certainly a first order need, but happiness and growth and learning and connecting is still essential. Ways that colleges invest in you students in this kind of growth. We have a whole division of student affairs designed to help you build a sense of belonging, help you find your home, help you find students that have similar points of view, but also to help you be exposed to students of different points of view. One of the great resources of coming to university is it's one of the rare opportunities you have to meet people from all over the world, from all walks of life, with all different kinds of points of view. We also invest a great deal in health. Universities have a whole health center to help you think about not just your physical health, but also your mental health, so that we can get beyond the fundamental needs of skills and of financial safety, but to get to a point where we feel we're more fulfilled in and finding a sense of purpose for our lives overall. It goes much more beyond just the financial investment of college.
When I think about higher education in America historically, and you go through the generations, colleges were initially places where men of privilege gathered. And I think about the way higher education has transformed society. It is the great leveler, the great equalizer. As a first-generation Latino who came to this country in the late 60s at a time of great turmoil in our country, I recognize the importance of being able to find communities of men and women who are investing in the next generation, not only intellectually, but helping them understand society, understand emotional safety nets, how to grow in empathy and develop character, whether you're an athlete or working out, taking care of your body. There's a balance and a rhythm to these college communities, these residential campuses that are seeking to help you get to where you want to go. And the great thing about education as being a leveler is that there is no common landing place because we're all very unique. So can we talk a bit about how career preparation services, because in the end, families are investing greatly and they're wanting a return on their investment. And I know from our previous conversations that we all believe that college isn't about getting a degree to get a job. It's about learning how to live a life well, which is, yes, 9 to 5, but also 24/7. The kind of people you're going to be in your community, the service and leadership you're going to provide. But let's talk about career preparation in this environment now on college campuses, how your respective campuses support students as they venture and envision what they will be doing beyond the diploma.
Yeah, I think like Penn has a vested interest in the students who walk through our doors, who join our community, and making sure that they succeed. And so one of the ways absolutely is in career preparation, but I think it also underscores why we've put our money where our mouth is and that we're making sure to staff people that are going to guide students on this journey. So when it comes to career preparation, you know, there's all kinds of sayings about like, you know, it's who you know, like how competitive are things, and those can be some of the stressors that are worrisome. But we have staff members in place that serve students across our university and making sure that they are equipped to be able to look for different opportunities and figure out which ones might be a good fit for them. They maintain relationships with different industries and different companies, bringing them to our campus so that students can explore some of those career opportunities. And we also make sure to inform some students who might be the first in their family going into a different realm of the workforce, that for those first generation students or for students who come from low income backgrounds, some of the concerns that might be a little more specific as they're going through that college or that career search kind of process and figuring out the next steps. So they really are partners in education, thinking about the future, specifically around careers, but not limiting it to that per se.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
I don't have much to add. I think we think of career advising alongside academic advising. What are your goals for life? But I think it's important that we also are thinking beyond just getting a job as much as helping a student find a fulfilling path. And like every office on campus, we've had to become innovative in thinking of new ways to pose these questions beyond the traditional ways. We're thinking of new ways to use technology, not unlike this one, to foster the kind of engagement that makes for effective career planning. But I think it's also essential to bear in mind that an education is not about career planning or career advising. There are certainly some fields that require professional expertise and specific skills, but employers tell us they're looking for things that go beyond that, ways to connect, ways to communicate, ways to solve big problems, to think bigger and more creatively on a liberal arts kind of way, more than a specific skill development kind of way. It's important that you start thinking now beyond the boundaries of career planning as you think about your education.
I think I just wanted to add too that for some schools, thinking about professional and graduate school, that advising also will fall into career services oftentimes. So that's a good thing to be looking out for, to understand different schools' take on that, as well as ways that you can try on different industries, whether that's an internship or a co-op or different opportunities like that, is going to vary a little bit from each of our schools.
Mm-hmm. I worked with a college president once who was the last mentee of Peter Drucker. For those of you who don't know, Peter Drucker is the father of modern business management. And I'm probably going to misquote it, but the gist of it I know is accurate, that in 20 to 30 years, 30% of the jobs that will exist then haven't even been thought of, don't exist now and haven't even been thought of. So when we think about the fact that the US Labor Department has quoted that the class that graduated from college in 2014 will be the first class to have at least 14 career changes and 1 global assignment. The idea of college and career preparation should take on a different dimension, a different level, because we're not preparing you to go into a job or into a career. What we're wanting to do is to prepare you how to think and adapt and have the basic tools to be able to adapt as society changes, as needs change, which is one of the benefits of a holistic liberal arts education that Kirk just mentioned. So I challenge us to think about not in these narrow ways of I have to study this to do this, because the likelihood of you studying one thing to do one thing and following through on that for the rest of your life is slim to none. So it's really about learning how to learn and adapt, and the communication skills necessary for that, the writing skills that are necessary for that. So think about your class selection when you're taking English classes, philosophy, sociology as important elements of your holistic training and education. Let's move on to the next slide, if you please, Maria. As a adopted New Englander, apologies to my fellow Red Sox fans, but I had to post this photo. Let's think in practical terms. What should students out there in high school look for as they consider a college in this environment? And I'd like to just list a few things that are here, but it's important that we begin to understand what are support systems, what do we need to flourish, to grow in various environments, who are the people that I need to be surrounded by. So we talked about some practical steps. Maybe Maria, you can speak to the first couple bullet items, and Kirk as well. What are the ways that we can learn about what colleges, as we consider colleges?
I think it's important to note that I hope all of y'all know that we are friends. It was introduced that way. This is not a competition. It is important for you to learn some distinctions about the schools that you're considering applying to as you envision what your life in that community could look like, right? And so we are trying to accomplish some very similar things, and we just have some slight variations on how we try to do that. So our encouragement today to you is to really take advantage of the search box or bar that's on each of our websites, or maybe you're going to a general search engine and you're typing in some of the questions that you have. Are you interested in a very specific activity or a type of class? Type it in the name of the school, and that can be a good first place to start to explore as you research a potential option. It might be that you have something that you've never heard of or you're questioning about. I would say that as you're using these search tools, that you go to the direct source to find out about the school from the school before you seek third-party sources of information about us. You can find lots of that information out there, and some of it is helpful, but a lot of it is not. So try to make sure that you're really balancing where the source of your information is coming from as you're considering which of these schools could be a good fit environment for you.
I think it's also an opportunity to remind students that this is your choice. You should pick a place that's right for you, as well as a place that wants you. Think about what's important to you in your future, not just which schools are good, but what things you want, and make sure that those things are at whatever institution you're thinking about. I just love this picture. This picture speaks to nature, it speaks to joy, it speaks to friendship, it speaks to culture, it speaks to food, it speaks to fun. Do those concepts stoke ideas in you that you want to be sure are present at your place. Do you want a big place or a small place? Do you want a place that's out in the middle of nowhere or a place that's in a big city? Do you want a retreat or a place that's bustling and busy? Do you want some place that's near home or far from home, a place with a rich faith tradition or a variety of different faith opportunities? So what things are important to you as you are looking for the place that will meet you where you are and help you get to the next level as efficiently as possible? And I mean, I was joking in preparation for this program today that I don't know if there's a fisherman's club at USC. We're located just short of downtown Los Angeles, not known for fishing opportunities downtown, but we're not far from parks and oceans where that can happen. And sure enough, there is a USC Trojan Anglers Club. I had no idea. There are 1,000 different kinds of organizations. So find the place that meets your needs. And that starts with thinking about what your needs are. You deserve to have your needs met. And I think too often students are thinking about the opinions of others. What does this list say? Or what do my parents say? Or what does my teachers or my neighbors say? And this is a time, students, for you to think about what's important to you and really weigh really identify the weight of those individual factors to begin your college search in a way that will ultimately lead to a fulfilling choice for you.
It's not unlike buying a home, is it? Or finding the right place to live. When my family and I moved here from California to Wheaton, Illinois 2 years ago, we have three boys. We had certain needs that needed to be met for them, as well as the need that my wife had to be close to campus so that we could partake in campus events and the community there. We knew what was important to us. So as you contemplate what you should look for in a college environment, you really need to be asking yourself the question of, what do I want my home to look like? Who do I want to invite into my living room? Whose living room would I like to be invited into? And to begin thinking about that community, think about the needs that you'll have. In high school, I've had to work closely with some faculty, some teachers in additional support. I was very close with my Office of College Planning. So I'd like to see what similar services I could find on a college campus. So to Maria's point about using the search tools, identifying support offices for advising, for academic support, the counseling center, find out more about what counseling services are offered, and cultural centers as are listed there. Now, most of our colleges have first-year programs and orientation programs. And you could look online, again, under search to find out what those first-year programs entail. They usually involve some type of community activity, a service project. They may center around classes, discussion classes based on a book or two. So by learning more about those elements, you could find out whether this is something that you find fitting for you. So think about it as your home for the next 4 years.
And I just want to say before we move on that when you're looking these things up, it's not a yes/no question. Do you have counseling? Do you have advising? Do you have a cultural center? Most of the answers will be yes. So the question is, how do you approach this? What is specific to your institution? Are there any special considerations or populations that can really dive into some other resources? So make sure that you're asking that next level question when you're trying to envision how this can be your home away from home.
Which feeds into our next slide, and that
we'll
is...
add, we are all trying to reinvent how we answer these questions for you, given this temporary shift in mode. Our strength has been to show you our campus, to bring you to our environment and put you in those communities. And we're looking for new ways to do that in the same way that you are. So watch our websites, connect with your admission counselor at our schools. We want to talk to you. We want to help connect you to the potential communities that you might be joining. And we're trying to find new ways to do that.
Yes, we're online, on the phone constantly, and that's we're here for you. So I appreciate that comment, Kirk. This not last slide, but next slide. speaks to how the high school experience has changed, actually the college experience as well, and how many of these signs are being put up at this time of year. I almost put up my senior year high school photo to support all the seniors in high school, but I didn't want to embarrass my colleagues here, so I didn't do that. But we touched on this a little bit in the previous slide, that this is an opportunity to show yourself and to learn. Actually, let me back up. This is an opportunity for you to learn more about yourself. How are you working through this environment? The conversations you're having with your friends who you can't hang out with, but you're online with, either Zooming or on Google. So perhaps the question to ask here is, how are you needing to adapt and think about what you're learning about yourself? The word empathy comes to mind. Does that make sense, Kirk and Maria, in this section?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. One of the ways that you are not trying to show us that you're ready or that you're prepared, there's not a formula, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's no like set path on how you show XYZ college or university that you yourself in the midst of what's going on are ready. It's a very individualized thing. Mm-hmm. Whether you are going to be a senior next year or in a couple of years as you're really entering this admissions process, like we just want to understand what your journey has been like. And that's the reason our application is set up in such a way. Not so that you can make decisions in high school that are for the purpose of admission, but so that the admissions process can be shaped around understanding what you've experienced in high school and before then. So really just like Silvio mentioned, like getting to know yourself and being able to describe that to us, that's a big part of how you actually show that, which does not have to dictate the way that you live your life or the choices that you make. That is a very personal and individualized choice that we're excited to read about.
I think.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, that's a huge point. So often we are asked what we're looking for. And in fact, what we're looking for are the answers that you students already have. We want to know who you are. We want to know why you've made the choices you've made. And this situation represents a worldwide upending of all of our plans. We all had plans to spend the summer in a different way. And we're dealing with that. All of us are dealing with that in a different way. And you may be worried about how that disruption is going to affect your college choice. But in the end, the answers are within you. We're not changing how we're thinking about this. We want to know you. We want to know about you. So make decisions for you and your priorities and help us understand why you've made those decisions. We're open to all kinds of reasons for that. Anybody who tells you how to answer questions about you is not the best expert in this. So think hard about why you're making the choices that you're making, and tell us about that. We want to get to know you and imagine you in our midst more than we're looking for you to answer some mystical question.
Yeah, thank you for that. Maria, you talked about there not being a formula, and Kirk, about the individual speaking to who they are and how they see themselves. The words that come to mind are authenticity and transparency, but not to confuse transparency with vulnerability. Transparency speaks to an honesty, a self-reflection, and a willingness to share those experiences with folks without putting on a mask. So I really appreciate the fact that there is no cookie cutter in what colleges are looking for, because college would not be a college if we were all looking for that one student that fits this mold. I was doing a presentation years ago with a colleague from Harvard, and one of the things that stuck out with me as we were co-presenting was a question that came up in the audience. What are colleges looking for? I'm president of this club. I volunteer at the hospital. I work with children in an after-school program. I'm captain of this team. And the person's like, oh, wow, the superstar here, which is wonderful. But the response was, we're just looking for one thing. Tell us that. It's like that movie City Slickers, just one thing. What's important to you? If you play the piano, but you use your piano playing to teach kids or do that in a nursing home or elder care facility, you're taking an area of giftedness and multiplying it. That's not doing a million things. It's just doing one thing well and thoroughly. So be willing to not to try to do everything, but to do one thing and to do it well. And that really stuck out to me, and I've used that example ever since. Let's move on to some practical applications for students and what they should be doing in this moment. And Kirk, you commented on this just a moment ago as well, is that we're having to adapt too. Colleges are having to adapt in how they review applications and plan for the coming cycle. I know some colleges have announced for this coming year that they'll be test optional, given that the College Board and ACT are still trying to put together a online test in place. We won't go into that, but the point being is that there are things that colleges are doing, but what can students be doing right now? What are some of the bright spots that we can identify in this shelter in place as they think about their college experience? And similarly, athletes and musicians and performers in theater, they're not able to get together to practice their trade, their skill set, their competitive spirits. So maybe we can comment a bit about this.
The first bit of advice I want to say what you should be doing in this moment is taking care of you and or your family. And that's going to look a little different. And then also taking care within reason of that academic path and journey that you're still on. As institutions of higher education, that is one of the primary things. We are looking for students who can contribute to our community, who will be successful in our classrooms, and be really excited about that intellectual exchange. And so that is something that if you still have that opportunity and it's in front of you at school, at home, like we're still going to want to understand what that path is like. Beyond that, if you have opportunities to engage online as a part of building your talents or continuing to grow some skills, that's awesome. If you've had to pivot everything that you used to be a part of and you develop some new skills or talents, like share that with us. It may mean that your activities list or your resume may take a little bit of a detour than you thought it was going to, but that's fine. Take some time to really describe that so we can envision what it is that you may be dedicating your time to. It might also give you a chance to really think about a new way to explore an interest you've already been pursuing. So kind of to Silvio's point about if you're a musician or a performer and you used to doing it in person with a certain kind of way, did you pivot and maybe you had a couple of like Instagram live music lessons? Those are the sorts of things that you can get really creative. We know you're creative. We know you're innovative. So just share that with us and help us to understand. If this isn't a time you can continue those things, kind of to Kirk's point about the hierarchy of needs, that's important. And that context is something that we really will bring into this process. So there's two separate things. It's like what you're doing to finish high school and what you're doing about the college search and application process. And try to separate those just a little bit more as you make your plans.
I keep failing to unmute. I think that word innovation is a real theme to this period of time. I also feel like as a part of our retreat to fundamentals, we're remembering what it's like to make a decision without all of the information that we're accustomed to having at our fingertips. As a leader of an organization, we have to make big decisions, and we can't always do this formulaically or with all of the data one might want. And right now, we still have to make decisions with even less data, with even less understanding of certainty. And I think there are lessons that you students might find in that idea as we think about looking for bright spots. We can't learn without struggling. We can't get stronger without hard work. Finding the lessons in the struggle should be an opportunity that we're looking for. And I think that we've found ways to become innovative. We found a new routine in some ways, and we're seeing lots of evidence around us about solving big problems. And I suspect that you might find lessons in your own life about struggle, about solutions and innovative solutions and ways to get around what we thought was our plan to help you define your story and tell us your story in the application process. You are building a story. It may not be the one that you thought you were writing. So take note of that, and we want to know what that is when you come to apply.
So to play devil's advocate for a second, because it's just us three talking at this point, does that mean that you're saying that, like, if I'm a high school student, that I need to write about what's happened to me this time in my personal statement or essays?
That's an option.
I think that's an answer for an individual student. I hear so much bad advice about what not to put in an essay.
Yeah.
And I think what to put in an essay has got to be important to the person writing it. There can be good essays about this situation and routine, superficial, poorly written things as well. I think the point is you should decide what illustrates your story clearly, and don't worry about the advice that you might get even from me or from others. If it's meaningful and the result of reflection from you, it's probably a useful story. I just want to be able to imagine you on behalf of my faculty for whom we're doing this work in our classroom, in our communities, making a difference. So think about ways that you might be able to make that point, which I think is the essence of all of the questions of our applications. If you go read the questions that we ask in our applications, we all are kind of asking the same thing. Who are you? What's important to you? What are your goals? How can we help you get there?
I actually, for several reasons, look forward to reading those essays. Number one, when I read college application essays, I gain perspective, and being able to look back, hopefully on 2020 with this behind us, and be reminded of how we in our communities have struggled, have suffered, have sacrificed. Some of us have lost loved ones. That this is such a point in time in our history to be able to walk with students and families through that process in their college search, I know is going to be again a poignant reminder of what we've gone through. So I would encourage students to think about their lives, and to Kirk's point about who you are, what you value, what you look forward to in life. So thank you. Those are great comments, Maria and Kirk. I think in our closing slide before we go to question and answers, Maria, you had mentioned Nelson Mandela's quote about education, and for us in our institutions and the institutions that we serve in, these are very fitting quotes, or this is a very fitting quote. The education is the great engine of personal development, and that's what we've been talking about, holistic development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become a head of the mine, that a child of farm workers can become president of a great nation. So these questions that we've asked, what are you learning about yourself in this moment? What kind of community do you want to become a part of? We hope that it feeds into your thinking and gives you a vision as you continue in your high school journey and think about beyond high school and the college experience that will best suit you, that you will pursue. Would you like to add anything here, Maria or Kirk, or go to our FAQs?
I think summed it up very nicely. I think, it's a great transition into some of the other ever-present questions that might be on the audience's mind.
Okay. Scott is, I'm sorry?
Just one last thought. Like, we see ourselves as a part of a global community as well. We are engines of developing leaders. We want to help you students achieve those goals, our goals, or if your goals are met. And we're also part of a global community working to solve the world's great problems, working on this very problem today as a part of a larger community at the same time. So
yeah, well said. Scott.
Yeah, this has been excellent. Some really, really thought-provoking messages that are that you all three of you are sharing, and I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping that our attendees are really, really taking this to heart. And I'm going to remind people again that this is recorded. So you get to watch this again because there has been a lot of great information here. And so that recording will be up, and I'll remind you at the end where to go for that. So we will jump into our question and answer period. And so some of the questions have been coming in using the Q&A feature. So as a reminder, please mouse over the bottom of the Zoom webinar window to find the Q&A icon. Open that up and you can type in your question here. We'll try to focus on the most commonly asked questions and pose those to our speakers here momentarily. With that, and there's some that are specific. So I'm actually going to go off the slide and use one. So someone said, Kirk, can you please expound upon the importance of the Student Affairs Office on campuses? So not only do I say the importance, just what about the functionality of a Student Affairs Office?
Well, there are many offices that are assigned to keep track of different things. We have academic schools that are working on developing new ideas in those academic fields. We have a residential life area or housing office that oversees facilities and buildings, and the place that oversees the campus. The opposite oversees the campus. But the Student Affairs is overseeing the wellness of the people, the student development, the development of the student from a social and emotional standpoint. So we're focusing on the health of students, on safety of students, on security of their well-being, to develop a sense of belonging, to develop a sense of community, make sure that we foster community to help students form identity and ultimately have a better education because of all of that. The whole division set aside for helping you gain a sense of belonging and a sense of fulfillment.
Typically, the person overseeing student affairs is the vice president for student affairs or the vice president for student development. They, again, typically report to the president of the campus, and they have all these offices that report up to that role. The health center, the counseling center, athletics, clubs and organizations, student government. So you go through the list, and really what it is about building community, supporting students through various offices.
Great, thank you. And this one's for you, Maria. They're asking if UPenn has any virtual information sessions.
That's a great question, and that kind of ties into the what can you do now? You know, things have changed, right? We definitely do. So we actually are going to have some guided virtual tours that are going to be available soon. There are other resources, like you can access our virtual tour anytime. Other things that we have that a lot of institutions also have is social media channels. We have a student blog. The website is a great way for you to be able to check out some of the stories of students at our institution. So definitely, you know, search boxes are our friends, right? So type in Penn virtual tour. You'll be able to find it pretty quickly. Go to the one that's on the Penn admissions website first, even if you check out other sources, but do similar things for the other schools you're interested in.
Thank you. And this person had more of a comment. They said, yes, I had a student tell me that this COVID experience has confirmed that they do not want to attend online college courses if there's a choice. And so, yeah, so this is, you know, it's just a statement that they want to be on campus. They want to be in classes and be with people. So it sounds like someone is discovering themselves through the situation.
I think that's very fair. We want you there too. Like, very honestly, we want to be there. We want you there, but we also want to keep you safe, and we also want to be wise with the resources, which includes the people resources that we have. And so I think that is one of the tougher questions at this time, is the wait and see game that we all have to play to do our part and to make sure that we can safely bring you to our campuses. So staying up to date on the news that we share from our schools is going to be a good way, but also your patience with us while our leaders are figuring that out is very appreciated.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because this is new for all of us, for everybody involved, and so you're going to see, and that's why it's great to have a seminar, webinar like this, to hear from people from different institutions, to know what's going on at that, because it is handled differently by each group.
We're also learning how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, what better place to figure this out than an institution that has to flip thousands of classes into a different mode on a moment's notice? And we've done this with thousands of classes. I've heard from many professors who have been anxious about it, who've been excited about how this has continued to foster community. We're staying focused on the objectives more than just the simple idea of delivering information. We're fostering exchange. In some ways, we've been able to bring in more outside experts to connect people more broadly. We're less limited by facilities. So I'm hearing much more excitement about the opportunity for innovation and learning than the dread of sitting in a Zoom call all day, which I completely agree is not the ideal college situation.
With the exception of this Zoom call.
Here.
The criticism from outsiders about higher ed is that higher ed is outdated, it's too traditional. Well, it's an industry that has proven that adage wrong because of how we have employed innovation and our ability to be nimble at a moment's notice. That type of activity, that type of thinking and planning goes into how we are thinking about the fall. Colleges are investing great energy and effort to plan for on-campus starts in the fall, as long as they can be safe starts and understanding what's happening with the virus. So you could be assured of the fact that that is our desire to be on campus in the fall, and we're planning for that, but we're also planning for contingencies because we don't know what August, September looks like, but we're planning on it. Would you say that's the same at Penn and at USC?
We're planning for all situations, and so we have some really nimble thinkers, some creatives, some critical thinkers, some analytical people, all of them coming together and really collaborating across our institution, which is great. I think the other thing that I'm kind of breaking the rules on, that addresses somewhat of the other questions, the changes that you've seen higher education institutions go through over all these years, the increased access, the changing kind of like profile of who's going to college, like that's also in large part credited to the students, like their activism, using their voice, them speaking up, them shaping our communities and our institutions is a huge, huge part of the history of higher education. And we can't do that without you. We aren't the students there anymore. And so I think that that's also one of the lessons that I learned. I went to college seeking someone else to tell me what to do and to like what's right and what will work and what won't. And I think a huge part of what I would tell my younger self to just accept earlier is that I have something to contribute. I have a space that really fits me and suits me. I have parts that don't get out of my comfort zone, but like my voice matters and I need to share it earlier and be, more comfortable doing so, because without my voice, some things won't change. Thank
you. I'd love to stay on and keep going with all of these questions. I think we'll have time for a couple more here. I think one important one is the second one that you have right here on the slide, just talking about families' finances and the economy changing due to the crisis. What avenues should people be looking at as prospects to pursue their college dream?
I can chime in about cost of education and how it is paid for. There are several sources of funding. The federal government is interested in you going to college, so it puts up funding for students to go to college. Your state might also put up funding. Your family is interested in you going to college, so it may put up funding. And as Maria suggested, we're nothing without you. We are not able to exist without you, and so we are interested in you going to college. And so some institutions will also put up funding. So to apply for this funding, and you essentially are asking for your own individual price you fill out the applications for financial aid, and those are not well tuned for short-term immediate things like the COVID-19. FAFSA relies on family data from 2 years ago. I'm at an institution that relies on CSS profile, which allows our institutional methodology to allocate institutional funding, which relies on information of 1 year ago, all of which seems like ancient history. There's also a way that financial aid offices can take into account emergency or immediate situations through an appeals process using forecasting or judgment on the part of the financial aid office. So apply for financial aid, get your personalized price, and if that doesn't feel realistic, reach out and find out about how to appeal on to make sure that that family contribution is reasonably calculated on the part of the institution. If you need financial assistance going to college, you've got to learn the lingo about how to do it. FAFSA, CSS profile, EFC, cost of attendance. Learn how we make it complicated for you so you can jump through those hoops to get the personal price that's best for you and your family. But it's a terrific investment. It pays off.
I would, that's great advice, Kirk. I would add that many times students look at and parents look at the price of tuition, room, and board and end the conversation before a conversation can be had because it's just too high of a price. I've never heard the term personal price. I've heard the term net price, but I like that. And that is that people come to the college application and the financial aid application representing so many socioeconomic levels and circumstances. And so we adapt our financial aid to support students based on their need. And it does require a partnership between the governments, federal, state, institutional, family, as Kirk outlined. But having the conversation is critical to that, and not to be afraid of saying, okay, my college dream can't happen now because there's no way I can afford that. You never know. So be bold and be intentional about this process. Really go through the process of having these conversations.
I would say two things. Have a conversation that can be a tough conversation, but it's better to have it before your heart is set on a school and the school has already given you an answer. But have a conversation with your family about what your beliefs are about debt for the purpose of your education and the investment that it could be for your future and for your family. And then also go to each of the net price calculators at the schools that are on your college list. So if you're thinking about, for instance, these 3 schools, we may all say that we charge the same dollar amount. That sticker price may look the same, but the different financial options that you have to pay the bill is going to look different at each of our schools. So what funding do we offer? What things can you apply for on the outside? And what is your family comfortable with when it comes to your financing your future and your education?
I appreciate the offerings of public universities, both 4-year and 2-year, as well as private. And you'll see various sticker prices that may make some of those publics more appealing. What you may not know is that the privates may have more resources from their endowments to provide additional funding that may put it more on a equal playing level. So I also think that a college grad still earns approximately $1 million more in a lifetime over a high school grad. So there is that worthy investment that you will get a return on.
Well, fantastic information here. I want to thank our panel for their insight and willingness to be here today to share their information and their knowledge. Thank you once again, Maria, Kirk, and Silvio. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I'm going to remind our listeners that this was recorded, and so definitely watch this again, because I heard there's nuggets of gold in here throughout this the session, really. And so at this point, I'm going to conclude this presentation for higher education for a time like this. You can share that recording with others that need to hear this. I'd like to also remind you to explore your college options in our virtual college fair. We have hundreds of interactive virtual booths where you can watch videos, download materials, and even chat live with admissions representatives from that institution. You'll also find that some booths have a schedule of their own live stream video presentations. So make sure you visit that today or come back while the event is still live to enjoy those experiences.
May I add one thing? And I don't know if Maria or Kirk, thank you very much, Scott. And thank you, Kirk and Maria, that if some of the questions weren't answered or we weren't able to get to all the questions, if you want to email us, I don't know if that can be provided. I'm at admissions@wheaton.edu, but I don't know if there's a resource where students can reach out to get the answers to their questions.
So a lot of the questions, unfortunately, we don't have a direct resource, but you, as all of our panelists will be receiving a list of all of our attendees. So if you want to send out a thank you with your contact information, you're welcome to do so.
Perfect. I want to get to those answers. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Take care and have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you, Sylvia, Maria, Scott.
You
Thank you.
too. Thank you.